Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I missed this story last week. Why? Because I was covering Bilderberg heavily, and even some of the other news stories that we were covering, I wasn't able to do as much deep research, not getting a lot of sleep, working well into the night, a lot of stuff going on. And if you haven't seen the Bilderberg coverage over at News for the number 4 a change and the coverage over at We Are Change, it's a must-see. We obviously covered it here on the regular channel or my personal channel as well, but those two channels definitely had a ton of Bilderberg coverage. But I missed this. So right now there's a congressional candidate. He's an independent, by the way, in Virginia that not only set up websites promoting this stuff, and we're not even going to say he's a you-know-what. See, we want people to watch this, and we want to expose the you-know-whats. And in order to do that, I can't tell you what the you-know-whats are, but you can read, you can see. And let me tell you something. This guy's just out with it. I don't understand why he's not in a jail cell, why he's not being followed and monitored all the time. I'm sure he's breaking the law. And remember, in this LGBTQ plus minus 684 kind of world, they're trying to promote things like MAPS, which are minor attracted persons. Now, here's the thing. This is not new in our government. This is a microcosm of what's actually going on. If you look to both sides of me, you'll see Dennis Hastert. By the way, in court this week, brand new news. We're going to break some Dennis Hastert news here too. Okay? And then you have Ed Murray. You probably don't know who Ed Murray is, but Ed Murray was the Seattle mayor, and he resigned in 2017. Now, going to Denny, old Denny Hastert, in that case, still going on. Judges are still ruling on it. Why? Well, even though a judge named him a serial you-know-what, he never went to jail for that. He did part of his sentence because he's an old man, and he was part of our government. And the stuff that we were talking about was before he was in our government, when he was a wrestling coach, when he was a gym teacher. Okay? We're going to get to that because he was also a youth camp counselor. And that was part of those WikiLeaks emails out there. What is it? Camp Red Nose, I believe? Or Camp some Nose Camp? There it is. Yep, John, Tony Podesta, Alex Podesta emails. No big deal. But we're going to get back to that. So let me explain this case to you a little bit with the Dennis Hastert. Remember, Dennis Hastert makes his way all the way up to the Speaker of the House on the Republican side, also showing you, even with the Podesta emails and others, this is not a right or left issue. They are on both sides of the aisle, I promise you. So Hastert, he starts being investigated because there's some odd things going on in his bank account. So it's investigators that come to him. And Hastert had been paying off one of his victims who had agreed, I think even signed documentation, that he would get something like, $3.5 million over a period of time if he kept his mouth shut about what Hastert had done to him. Because he's a you-know-what. And essentially, Hastert, when approached by these people, lied and said he was being extorted and that there was no deal. So it was not until investigators came to interrogate and arrest this person that he broke his silence on what was actually going on. Then the investigation ensued. They found out he was right. And John Doe number 1 is now in court trying to get the rest of his money because he held up his part of the bargain. But just remember, Dennis Hastert, he's not in a jail cell. He's not in a jail cell at all. Let me show you another guy that's not in a jail cell, that also worked with kids directly out of high school, that has allegations of some pretty awful you-know-what things. Meet Seattle Mayor Ed Murray. Now, I did some work on this on the We Are Change channel a couple years ago when this is a story in September of 2017, I believe, even through October and November. But this man, also not in jail. Let's make it clear. Let's make it very, very clear. And he embedded himself with kids straight out of high school. Take a good look at these eyes. This is what predators look like. The real deal. The real deal, you know what's. So now, when we have an independent who's, promoting this stuff, and he's got a manifesto. I mean, I want to throw up. Why is he not in jail? I mean, my God, it couldn't get any worse. Now, I want to play a clip from Invisible Empire. This is a film I did 10 years ago, kind of showing you not only that even in the old guard, remember Barney Frank, who is going to be in this clip, he was a Republican before he was a Democrat. He became a Democrat after this scandal. And this scandal, again, had to do with you-know-what. And running a you-know-what brothel out of his D.C. home with a man named Stephen Gottlieb. Now, on top of that, we're going to get to another guy named Tom Foley, also not in jail. I believe he was a Florida congressman. I'm thinking that's his position. We'll go over it in a minute. But that man had a special position amongst youngsters and actually went on Take a Seat, the Chris Hansen show. Remember that? And he was praised. He was praising Chris Hansen. Why don't you take a seat, sir? So, by the way, this picture right here doesn't involve any kind of you-know-what, but what it does involve is a guy named James Gannon, a.k.a. James Guckert, who was an embedded journalist at the White House with a fake site called Talon News, who was also the madam of and a escort for militarystuds.com. That's George Bush patting him on the head. And as we get into that clip, you'll probably also see him cheek to cheek, and he might kiss his head too, but nothing weird going on there.
Made over 200 appearances at the White House. Oddly enough, over 24 of these visits would take place when there were no scheduled briefings. He failed to check in or out with the Secret Service on many other occasions, coming and going as he pleased. These type of activities are not new to the White House. In 1989, headlines involving call boys in the White House rocked the cover of the Washington Times.
The Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a call boy ring.
Oh.
The paper reports that 2 of the male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year.
Oh.
Hundreds of credit card receipts obtained by the Washington Times confirm that its clients were key officials of the Reagan and Bush administrations, military officers, congressional aides, and U.S. and foreign businessmen with close social ties to Washington's political elite.
Just a cover story. No big deal. Just out there in the media, and the media just ignored it. After a few stories, this was in local media only. It was barely talked about. There are books on the matter. I've read both of them, the Franklin Scandal, the Franklin Cover-Up. There's a lot of information beyond it, and I know that people have called it a carefully crafted hoax. I think there's a lot of truth in there, a lot of truth. And yeah, is there a lot of disinformation, misinformation? Listen, you got to have discernment, but there are problems. So let's continue.
This ring extended beyond the White House and into Congressman Barney Frank's bedroom.
Barney Frank, one of 2 openly homosexual members of Congress, acknowledged having used a male prostitute, whom he then hired as a personal employee. The man had keys to Frank's basement apartment on Capitol Hill. Frank paid him approximately $20,000 out of his own pocket to be his housekeeper and driver. But as first reported in today...
Now, you see this, before we do, listen, they're showing Frank's apartment here. Look, school used as a base for a you-know-what ring. Now, again, think about this. It's a young school. They tried to spin this that, again, Gottlieb said everybody was not of age. That's what all the evidence shows. That's Chevy Chase High School. Or high school? I'm not even sure. It might have even been middle school. Don't quote me on that. I believe it was Chevy Chase School, but you can check that out. Cover story, Washington Times, showing the call boy in quotations. You know who was not in jail? Barney Frank. Also not in jail. Weird. Isn't it weird that these people aren't in jail and they have political power on both sides of the aisle? It's very bizarre.
Today's Washington Times. The man was on probation for sex crimes and a drug conviction, and he ran a prostitution business out of Frank's home.
Although Frank tried to claim ignorance, Stephen Goby, the prostitute in question, claimed that Frank was completely aware of what was going on and was even receiving free and discounted sexual services.
Oh.
The fix seemed to be in. Frank was threatening members of Congress to remain silent prior to being exposed in this sex ring.
Massachusetts Democrat Barney Frank, a homosexual, threatened to expose fellow congressmen he knew to be gay unless they stopped spreading rumors.
Questions stopped, and Frank walked away with a slap on the wrist. Some members of the Ethics Committee were disgusted.
Do we tolerate, do we condone a member of this body who knowingly permits a house of prostitution to be operated out of his residence?
You have just heard.
All right, so I want to stop it right here. I have since, and this is, again, we make mistakes out there. I have since gone and watched this entire hearing. It's available on C-SPAN. I actually downloaded it. I think it's like 4 hours long. There's some really interesting segments. Dixon here, he actually was in support of Frank. So I don't want to be accused of, crafty editing or being dishonest. Listen, I made a mistake based on the edited clip that I had seen and was able to get a hold of. Things were a lot harder to get a hold of archive-wise, especially back in 2008 and 9 when I was working on this picture. So let's continue.
One of the most edited, selective garbage that has ever been put forth, in my opinion, in this House.
Again, we see people of the highest levels of power involved in the most repulsive and decadent of crimes.
They couldn't care less about the code of conduct that's taught in all major religions about treating others the way that you want to be treated. And then they masquerade, they put this false front on that they're like everybody else, because your average person wants to do right, believes in some sort of a karma, believes in some sort of a divine justice in the universe. And so these people need to put on this front that they're like the average Joe in middle America, that they go to church every once in a while, and that they believe in an afterlife and a divine justice. And so they have to put on this front that they're like everybody else in order to get elected and to be accepted and to not have people look at them suspiciously, because if somebody goes around and openly admits that they were an atheist or that they were of some obscure religion, people aren't going to throw their support behind them as much, and they're not going to trust them as easily.
The reality of this behavior is never revealed to the public, as the media keeps any revelations quiet. Unfortunately, these type of activities continue to this day. Florida Congressman Mark Foley chaired the House caucus on missing and exploited children.
Chaired the House caucus on missing and exploited children. This guy embedded him. They embed themselves.
And went on television praising Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator series.
The Dateline piece has probably done more than any law we can create.
Foley was later caught attempting to have sexual relations with numerous underage pages.
Congressman Mark Foley, the man who championed the Child Protection Act of 2006, resigned after inappropriate emails and instant messages surfaced that he sent to former congressional pages.
Did you just hear what he said? Championed the act. The Child Protection Act of 2006. This is the guy. Unlikely to be prosecuted. Oh, you know who made that decision? You know who helped make that decision? Oh, Denny. Old Denny wasn't really concerned.
No charges were even filed.
Foley himself has checked into rehab. No one has been charged with any crime.
Yeah, you know who else checked himself into rehab? I believe it was Kevin Spacey right after. Yeah, let's check into rehab. When I'm accused of you know what, because we want this video to get out there. I doubt it's not going to get demonetized, guys. Go check out my community tab right now. 4 of my 5 videos today have already been demonetized. Thank you so much, YouTube. Again, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, they're allowed to cover these topics. Apparently, Jason Burmis isn't. I just want to let you know that that's, again, what these emails, in my opinion, were more than about. The relationships, not only with, big business and the corruption there, but the relationships of Tony, John, and Alex Podesta to Dennis Hassert and other people that are you-know-whats. And you can dig as deep as you like in that. I've thought about doing a video of just the hardcore evidence that we can prove, and maybe that'll get out there. It really depends. The long-form stuff takes a while. The deep dive stuff takes a while for me to really get down and dirty into. I'm thinking maybe I'll do a couple deep dive videos later tonight. Not sure. Let me know what you want to see in the comments section below. Let me know how you like the new layout, the thumbs. Make sure that if you're not already part of the Burmis Brigade, what are you waiting for? What are you guys waiting for? Look at all these videos. We're pumping out the truth as much as possible. We're giving you news and coverage you're not going to see anywhere else. Remember, you can go check out my other videos over at We Are Change and News, the number 4, A Change, which also has some great content. So again, if you're a new watcher, smash that subscribe button. And if you are a subscriber, why don't you just favorite this bad boy? Favorite the page, and that way you favorite this video page behind me, and then you'll just take a look, and there'll be new content all the time. You don't have to worry about notifications. I know that you like coming in live, and I love having you live, but when you can't make it live, hopefully you don't miss a very important report. Guys, thank you so much. I will see you on the flip.